The galaxy knew the Torvax as ruthless enforcers. Their ships, shaped like crescent blades and powered by dark fusion cores, patrolled the lawless sectors of the Outer Rim. They weren't conquerors like the Kradek, nor merchants like the Felari. They were judges bound by their prime directive: preserve order at all costs. But even the Torvax had limits, and today they were crossed. On the neutral planet of Garros V, a sand-covered, two-moon world home to dozens of interstellar research outposts, a Torvax commander stood staring in disbelief at the holographic reports in his taloned hands. The reports were real, verified, stamped. Endorsed by local law, it was all true: human children imprisoned, used as leverage. His four golden eyes narrowed, his armored chest heaved with fury. Commander Tyrol, warden of the Sixth Flame, let out a low growl that rippled across the control room like thunder. "You imprisoned human children?" he growled to the planetary governor through the transmission line. "Are you insane?" Governor Belsan, a squat Azari with oily green skin and an ego twice his body size, squirmed in his seat. "It was necessary. The human colonists were resisting our settlement claim, violent even. Their leaders would not negotiate. We had to apply pressure." Tyrol stepped closer to the screen, looming like a storm. "You applied pressure," he said coldly, "by taking unarmed juveniles, placing them in containment cells meant for pirates, and feeding them nutrient gel fit for livestock." "They were unharmed. They were terrorized," Tyrol interrupted. "You broke Treaty Article 9. You violated interspecies humanitarian law, and worst of all," he paused, his voice dropped, "you drew my attention." Then he cut the transmission. The crew of the Verdict of Ash, his Torvax warcruiser, stood frozen in the silence. "Plot a descent vector," Tyrol ordered. "We go now." "But Commander," said one of his lieutenants, a silver-scaled sub-commander named Reen, "this is a neutral planet. We have no jurisdiction." Tyrol turned to her, fire in his eyes. "They made it our jurisdiction the moment they used children as weapons." The Verdict of Ash descended on Garros V like a hammer from the stars. Within an hour, the Torvax troops, hulking, armored beings trained in rapid infiltration, had surrounded the prison complex. Tyrol himself led the breach, blasting through doors with a searing pulse cannon. The Azari guards dropped their weapons before they could even react. He walked through the dim corridors of the prison, stepping over cables and flickering lights until he found them. 32 human children, some no older than 6. Crying, confused, huddled in corners. One girl was holding a picture of her mother, folded and worn. When Tyrol stepped into the room, the children flinched. But one boy, pale, freckles, maybe 10, stood his ground, fists clenched. "We're not afraid of you," the boy said. Tyrol knelt, lowering his armored body to eye level. "You shouldn't have to be brave," he said softly. Then, without further delay, he tore open the cell doors with his claws and summoned his medics. Each child was wrapped in thermal blankets, fed real food, given soft music to calm their nervous systems. Word spread quickly across the stars. The Torvax, once feared, had become protectors, but it wasn't over yet. In the days that followed, protests erupted across Garros V. The Azari governor fled the planet. Humans, once seen as fringe colonists, found themselves surrounded by allies. Alien journalists, philosophers, even politicians spoke out. "This," said Tyrol to the Galactic Assembly, "was not a political dispute. It was a test of our conscience, and many of you failed." Some murmured, others nodded. "I have walked battlefields soaked in the blood of tyrants," Tyrol continued. "I have purged slavers and silenced despots, but I have never seen anything more shameful than using children as bargaining chips. If this alliance is to mean anything, this must never happen again." He stepped away from the podium. The room fell into stunned silence, then applause, and in the audience, seated behind the human delegation, was someone unexpected. Her name was Dr. Lyra Venn, a cultural liaison, a human with deep brown eyes and a reputation for diplomacy and steel in equal measure. She had worked for years to earn trust among alien governments, and she had fought quietly, endlessly, for the release of those children long before Tyrol arrived. When the assembly ended, Tyrol approached her. "You knew," he said. "I tried to stop it," she replied. "They didn't listen. You were brave. They were braver." He looked at her, long, thoughtful, not with the gaze of a warrior, but of a being who'd seen too much pain and needed something else. "Come with me," he said suddenly. "To where? To help us rebuild trust, bridges, sanity." Lyra tilted her head. "Is that an order, Commander?" He allowed a smile. "A request. One born of admiration." She hesitated, then nodded. Months passed. The prison was torn down. In its place, a school was built, one that taught not just human knowledge, but Torvak's history, Izari ethics, and the laws of interstellar compassion. Children of all species walked its halls. Tyrol remained on Garros V not as a conqueror, but as a guardian, and Lyra stayed too, at first as an advisor, then as something more. They were an unlikely pair, steel and warmth, order and empathy. But where he brought strength, she brought healing. Where she brought hope, he brought protection. One evening, as two moons rose above the rebuilt city, they stood together on a balcony overlooking the new school. "Do you believe peace is real?" Lyra asked. Tyrol thought for a long time. "It wasn't," he said, "not until they made it matter." He pointed to the courtyard where the human children were playing with Torvak's younglings, laughing, running, free. "And now?" she asked. "Now it is," he said. And for the first time in a long, brutal history, peace wasn't just written in treaties. It was written in joy, and guarded by those once thought incapable of mercy. Because the day someone tried to imprison human children was the day the galaxy learned what true fury looked like.